People go missing all the time, most are never seen again. But in rare cases, some come back, years later, with strange stories, no memories, or lives completely changed. In this video, we'll look at 5 more real cases of people who vanished and then reappeared, leaving behind more questions than answers. It was February 20th, 1978, in Saugatuck, Michigan. The weather was freezing and snow covered everything. That morning, 23-year-old Stephen Kubacki, a student at Hope College, went on a solo cross-country ski trip near Lake Michigan. He had done trips like this before, and it was expected to last only a day or two. Stephen was a smart and independent student, studying either German or history at a Christian college in Holland, Michigan. His professors thought he was gifted, and his classmates said he enjoyed nature and had strong opinions. He lived off campus and usually kept to himself. He had climbed mountains in Europe and liked playing role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. He only had 3 classes left before graduating and already had a job lined up at a local newspaper. His life seemed to be going in the right direction, but when he didn't return the next day, his family became worried and contacted the police. Soon, snowmobilers found something strange near the lake. A pair of skis was standing in the snow, the poles were upright, and a backpack had been placed neatly on top. It didn't look like an accident. Everything was arranged too perfectly. A trail of footprints led about 200 yards toward the frozen lake, then suddenly stopped. Authorities thought Stephen may have fallen through the ice, but there were no signs of a struggle. No blood, no extra footprints. Just one set of tracks that ended at the lake's edge. Search teams, including the Coast Guard, state police, and volunteers, used helicopters, boats, and even drones to search the area. But they found nothing. Some people didn't believe he had fallen into the lake. His roommate said Stephen had talked about his skiing plans openly. If he had wanted to leave on purpose, he would have given some sort of clue. Police questioned other students. Some thought it was planned, others thought it was an accident. One student, whose name was blacked out in the police reports, left school shortly after Stephen disappeared. She was upset, left a note for her roommate, and went to live with her aunt in Grand Rapids. Investigators thought she might have known something, but there was no proof. A couple reported seeing someone who resembled Stephen walking on the ice the day before the skis were found, with a woman nearby taking pictures. She was never identified. Stephen had no known girlfriends in Michigan, and his past relationships were in Europe. His family also received strange phone calls. One caller provided a phone number they claimed could reach Stephen, but it had been disconnected. Later, Stephen's mother discovered she had spoken to him using that number 6 months earlier for 15 minutes. The number was deactivated shortly after, and although police traced it, the name was never released. Stephen's brother didn't believe the drowning theory either. He hired a private investigator from a group called the Fat Man Detective Service. That investigator believed Stephen might have gone to Germany to meet someone, but no airline had any records of Stephen flying. 15 months passed. Then, on May 5, 1979, Stephen suddenly woke up on a grassy hill in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 739 miles away. He didn't remember anything from the past year and 3 months. His last memory was standing near the lake, feeling cold and scared. He was wearing different clothes, a Wisconsin Marathon shirt, sneakers, and glasses he didn't recognize. He had $40 in cash and a satchel full of maps and hitchhiking signs for places like San Francisco, Reno, and Chicago. Stephen walked 20 miles to his aunt's house and contacted his father. His family had believed he was gone forever. He told reporters he only realized how much time had passed after reading a newspaper, suspecting the cold or exhaustion caused his memory loss. Though he felt fine before the trip, he refused mental health evaluations. He didn't take the newspaper job, but Hope College awarded him his degree. Stephen later moved to the Pacific Northwest, became a psychologist, and wrote a book about math and existence. He never discussed the incident again, and neither did his family. Some people link his case to the Lake Michigan Triangle, an area known for strange events, boats spinning in circles, sudden weather changes, and planes vanishing. To this day, no one knows what really happened. The perfectly arranged skis, the backpack, and the sudden reappearance far from home all remain unanswered questions. Stephen Kubaki's story is still one of the most puzzling missing person cases in American history. It was April 27, 1964, in Chicago, Illinois. Dora Franczak had just given birth to her son, Paul, at Michael Reese Hospital. It should have been a joyful moment, but just hours later, a woman dressed as a nurse entered Dora's room, picked up the newborn, and walked out. She wasn't part of the hospital staff, and she was never seen again. Dora's husband, Chester, was at work when he got the call. He rushed to the hospital only to find out that his son had been taken. Police and staff searched the area, but the woman was gone. A large search began. Over 175,000 postal workers were asked to keep watch. On the first day, police checked hundreds of homes. The Federal Bureau of Investigation joined the investigation. Baby Paul's photo appeared in newspapers across the country, but no clear leads came in. This was before deoxyribonucleic acid testing and security cameras. Investigators compared blood types and features like ear shapes across thousands of babies, but none were a match. Time passed. The trail went cold. Still, the Franczaks held on to hope. Then, in 1965, a toddler was found sitting in a stroller outside a store in Newark, New Jersey. He had a black eye, was quiet, and looked around Paul's age. Dora believed he was her son. The Federal Bureau of Investigation agreed. The boy was sent home with the Franczaks. There was no way to confirm it at the time, but they raised him as Paul and never spoke about what had happened again. As the boy grew older, things didn't feel right. When he was 10, he found old news articles and letters hidden in a crawl space at home. They told the story of the kidnapping. When he asked, Dora admitted it was true, but told him everything was fine now. Still, he couldn't ignore how different he looked from his parents and brother. The question stayed with him. By 2012, he was living in Las Vegas and had a family of his own. He decided to take a deoxyribonucleic acid test for himself and his daughter. His parents didn't agree with it, but he moved forward. The results confirmed his fear. He wasn't related to Dora or Chester, and he wasn't the baby taken from the hospital. The case was reopened, and the news spread quickly. His parents didn't speak to him for over a year. His marriage also ended, but he didn't stop searching. In 2015, with help from deoxyribonucleic acid experts and genealogy websites, he discovered his real identity. His name was Jack Rosenthal. He was born on October 27, 1963, in New Jersey, months before the Franczak baby disappeared. Jack had also gone missing. Then he found something else. He had a twin sister named Jill. Both had vanished at the same time. Jack kept digging. He found that his birth family had struggled. His mother dealt with alcohol issues. His father, a veteran, had a difficult history. Relatives said Jack and Jill were often neglected. Jack had been found. Jill was still missing. Jack feared she might have been left behind, or worse. She had never been found. Then, in 2019, a man named Kevin Beatty in Michigan took a deoxyribonucleic acid test. It showed he was Dora and Chester's biological son. Kevin was the real Paul. He had been raised by another family under a different name. His records had been changed. The woman who raised him had passed away. It's still unknown how she got him. In December 2019, Kevin and Dora spoke on the phone. It was brief but meaningful. They planned to meet, but Kevin was battling cancer. Then the pandemic began. In April 2020, Kevin passed away at 56. His obituary didn't mention his real identity. For Dora, it was another loss. But Jack believed that the final call brought her peace. Today, Jack keeps looking for his sister, Jill, and the truth that's still missing. Because while Paul Franczak was finally found, one question remains. Where is Jill Rosenthal? It was August 30th, 1902 in New York City. Dr. William Horatio Bates, a respected eye specialist, was 41 years old and well known in his field. He had a solid reputation, medical degrees from Cornell and Columbia, and was known for his surgical skill. That day, he wrote a short letter to his wife, Ada Seaman Bates, who was staying with her mother. In it, he mentioned traveling with a former student, Dr. Forsch, for cataract surgeries and the good pay. He also noted missing the upcoming horse show. The letter seemed cheerful but odd, as he was already financially secure, making his excitement about the money unclear. But Ada didn't think much of it. Dr. Bates often traveled for work. At first, there was no reason to worry. Then the letters stopped. A few days passed, then weeks. Aida began contacting his friends and co-workers, trying to figure out where he went. No one knew anything. She finally asked the Freemasons, an international organization Dr. Bates belonged to, for help. They launched a worldwide search, sharing his photo and description through their global network. About 6 weeks later, someone matching his description was found at Charing Cross Hospital in London. He was thin, weak, and disoriented, and friends who visited said he seemed unrecognizable. He even admitted he hadn't eaten in days, despite having money in his account. Ada quickly traveled to London and was shocked to find he didn't recognize her. Still, she convinced him to stay with her at the Savoy Hotel. During his stay, he mentioned operating on a patient with a brain issue but couldn't recall anything else. Then, 2 days later, he quietly vanished again. Ada never saw him after that. She spent years looking for him across Europe and the United States, but there were no more leads. She passed away in 1907, never learning what truly happened to her husband. At the time of his disappearance, Dr. Bates had a solid reputation. He was admired in medical circles and held teaching positions at leading hospitals. His sudden disappearance left people confused. Then, in 1910, 8 years later, he reappeared. A New York doctor spotted him in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Dr. Bates had set up a small practice and was treating patients. He still didn't remember his past. The doctor convinced him to return to New York, where they opened a clinic together. But by then, much had changed. His name no longer carried the same weight, and the medical world had moved on. In 1917, he introduced a new method he called the Bates System of Eye Exercises. He published his ideas in a magazine known for unverified health claims. Dr. Bates argued that most vision problems came from mental stress and that glasses weren't necessary. His approach involved eye movement exercises, looking at the color black, and even staring into the sun, practices considered unsafe and lacking scientific support. Despite the criticism, many people were drawn to his ideas. Some even claimed they no longer needed glasses. One of his most notable supporters was Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World, who promoted the method in his own book. In 1929, Dr. Bates faced backlash for spreading what many saw as misleading medical claims. Still, his method continued gaining attention, and even today, some people discuss it online, though experts warn against it. But his story didn't end there. In 1928, another strange event occurred. His son, Charles Halsey Bates, suddenly vanished and was never found. When Dr. Bates died in 1931 at the age of 70, Charles was still missing and not mentioned in the will. Dr. William Bates went from being one of the most respected names in eye care to a man whose life was marked by mystery, loss, and unanswered questions. Whether his strange disappearance was caused by memory loss, personal issues, or something deeper, only he knew what really happened, and he never told anyone. It was August 31st, 1998 in Rockhampton, Queensland, Australia. 14-year-old Natasha Ann Ryan was dropped off by her mother at North Rockhampton State High School. Natasha had a history of running away, so when she didn't return that evening, her family didn't panic right away. But as days passed, concern grew. Natasha didn't come home. Police believed she had simply run off again, but something felt different this time. Around that period, other girls and women in the area began disappearing, including a 9-year-old girl and several women between the ages of 19 and 39. The town of Rockhampton, with a population of only about 68,000, quickly became filled with fear. Eventually, police focused on Leonard John Fraser, a convicted offender who had been released in 1997, just before the disappearances started. In April 1999, Fraser was arrested for another offense and sent back to prison. Soon after, he confessed to ending the lives of 5 people. One of the names he mentioned was Natasha Ryan. He told police that he had met her at a movie theater, offered her a ride, then attacked her and left her body in a pond. Her family believed it. On her 17th birthday in 2001, Natasha's parents, Robert and Jenny Ryan, held a memorial service. By then, they had accepted that their daughter was gone. But Fraser had lied. Natasha Ryan was alive, and had been the whole time. Since the day she disappeared in 1998, Natasha had been living just 1 kilometer from her mother's house, hiding with her 21-year-old boyfriend, Scott Black. She had chosen to run away and stay with him. They didn't leave Rockhampton and moved houses a few times, always staying nearby. Scott worked as a milkman and kept a quiet life. Natasha rarely went outside, kept lights low and curtains closed. She only stepped out about 6 times in 4 years, always at night. Even after Fraser claimed responsibility for her death, Natasha didn't come forward. She later said she felt trapped by the lie and was afraid of the consequences. In 2003, just before Fraser's trial for Natasha's supposed death, she called a children's counseling helpline. She gave the name Sally and said someone was about to be wrongly convicted. The call was reported, but the phone couldn't be traced. Later, police received a letter with a phone number and a message. Natasha Ryan is alive and safe. On April 10, 2003, police entered Scott Black's house. Inside a cupboard, they found an 18-year-old girl, pale, frightened, and very much alive. It was Natasha. The next day in court, the prosecution shocked everyone by announcing that Natasha was not gone. Her father was pulled aside and given the news. When he called the police station, a familiar voice came on the line. She told him that it was her, Grasshopper, and that she loved him and was sorry. Her mother, Jenny, admitted that she had been angry at first. She had hated her, but when she saw her, all those feelings faded away. Fraser was cleared in Natasha's case but remained in prison for the other victims. Natasha and Scott faced their own legal issues. In 2005, Scott was sentenced to 1 year in jail for lying to police. Natasha was fined $1,000 and ordered to pay $16,000 toward the cost of the search. Even so, she sold her story to 60 Minutes Australia for $120,000. In 2008, she and Scott got married in front of 35 guests. Her mother attended the wedding. The couple also sold their wedding photos to Woman's Day for $200,000. Later, Natasha changed her name to Tash Black, became a nurse, and had 4 children. For many years, she stayed away from public attention. Then, on June 2, 2024, almost 21 years after being found, Natasha disappeared again. She left her home on foot and was last seen near the Rockhampton golf course. The next morning, her body was discovered. She was 40. Police said there was nothing suspicious about her passing. Friends and family said Natasha's life wasn't perfect, but she tried to move forward. Despite the mistakes, she built a life, had a family, and found a way to begin again, even if only for a while. It was September 20, 2007 in Maple Valley, Washington, a small town just outside Seattle. Tanya Ryder, 33, had just finished her night shift at a local supermarket. She and her husband Tom were both working long hours, juggling multiple jobs to save money for a house. That morning, after work, she planned to head home, rest for a bit, then leave for her second job at a clothing store. But Tanya never made it home. Minutes from home, Tanya's blue Honda Sport utility vehicle veered off the road, crashing into a ravine and landing in thick blackberry bushes hidden from view. She was seriously injured, her leg crushed, ribs and spine broken, and shoulder dislocated. Her seatbelt pinned her in place, and her phone was just out of reach. Unable to move, she focused on surviving. At first, Tom thought little of her absence, as their work schedules kept them apart for long periods. But when Tanya missed her shift at the store, her coworker called him, and he realized something was wrong. He immediately reported her missing to the police. But authorities didn't take it seriously. They said Tanya was an adult and had the right to leave without notice. Tom begged them to track her phone, but they refused. Frustrated and desperate, he kept pushing. It took days before police finally opened an investigation. Tom knew she wouldn't just vanish like that. They eventually traced her phone near Highway 169 and began searching the area. It wasn't until 8 days later that officers finally found her car, just 20 feet from the road, hidden by heavy brush. Tanya had been trapped inside the wreck the entire time with no food or water. Her injuries were life-threatening, and she had passed in and out of consciousness for days. Dehydration was causing kidney failure, and the pain was unbearable. Her phone lit up with missed calls, but she couldn't reach it. In her daze, Tanya imagined things. At one point, she thought she saw her childhood dog. Cars passed nearby, but no one saw her. Each hour felt endless. She hoped someone, maybe Tom, would notice she was missing and check her usual route. But the thick plants hid her car completely. She was utterly alone. Then, on the 8th day, she heard voices. At first, she thought she was dreaming, but the sounds got closer until someone shouted, "She's alive!" Rescue crews pulled her from the wreck and rushed her to Harborview Medical Center. Her condition was critical. Her leg was nearly beyond saving. Her collarbone, ribs, and spine were broken. Doctors warned that she had come dangerously close to not making it. When she woke up, Tom was there. He hadn't stopped searching. Doctors said her survival likely came down to her age, overall health, and the fact that she had been wearing a seatbelt. But the damage wasn't just physical. Tanya couldn't remember the crash. Her recovery would take years, both mentally and physically. Tom later spoke out about the delays and how the system failed them. He said any policy that blocked officers from taking fast action in a case like this needed to be changed. He believed those lost days could have made all the difference. Tanya eventually shared her story in a book titled Missing Without a Trace: 8 Days of Horror. In it, she talked about what it was like to be stuck for over a week and how she fought to survive. Her case also raised concerns about how missing adult cases were handled. Tanya's experience showed how quickly things can go wrong and how slow responses can cost lives. Even now, the scars from that time remain. But Tanya continues to move forward. She survived something few people could, and her story reminds us how easily someone can disappear and how hard it can be to bring them back.